Welcome back to the studio. My name is Mia Sage, and this is Martin Sage. Welcome, Martin.
I guess that makes us the sages.
Yay!
It works because we bring a kind of wisdom to business.
Yes, we do.
McKinsey, Bain, Boston, Deloitte and Touche bring knowledge, they bring connections, but they don't bring about the cultural revolution that companies need to move forward. That's our job.
And we like our job.
We like our job. I didn't set out to do this. I started, actually I set out to be a plumber. And that was up from being a farmer in terms of earning. And then I realized how being a plumber in Canada, it's really cold outdoors.
Oh my God, yes. That's very cold.
Very cold. You're trying to chip away that dirt to get to that frozen excrement. And this idea hit me. Why don't I go to college and find a job that I can do indoors with running water and heat and light?
Smart choice.
Smart choice. So I never had good grades in school because I thought the subjects were pretty boring. But then when I got to college, I got to major in psychology. And people are interesting, and people are complex. And I have a mathematical sort of mind, and I got interested in the dynamics of people. So I was only a psychologist for maybe 4 or 5 years, and I had to get out of it. I wasn't interested in diagnosing people. I was interested in how brilliant people are when they work together.
And I've noticed that also people become more brilliant around you. It's almost like you remind them of what they're capable of, which I guess is the job of a coach.
Yeah, well, somebody called me a coach, and I had been called worse things, so I let that sit for a few years. But I was never a coach. Okay?
Yeah.
I am a mathematician. I calculate complex systems and make predictions. So I was doing that with entrepreneurs, startups. I was doing that with people who wanted to make a change in their career. It was kind of my specialty. My doctoral work was in career psychology, and I shifted over easily to helping people find their way. But then people started coming in, gathering up the information that I was working with and that I was creating, and taking it back into their companies, and the companies made explosive gains. Nobody was more surprised than me.
I would say that's a pretty good surprise, huh?
I was pretty stunned, to tell you the truth. What? You did what? You said what? And they, and then the laser worked, and then they invented diversity long before it was a requirement, and companies became very creative, very inventive, and very collaborative. It wasn't my fault. I didn't know what I was doing. But I love people, and I love how when they're in harmony, I love to listen to a great singer, a great soloist. But when harmony kicks in, oh no, that's something that's mathematics. Now you know that because you are let's say your super talent is in mathematics and music.
I remember when I was a little girl, I was in the orchestra and I played the violin. And when you first sit down, and especially with string instruments, you know, you're all supposed to tune on the same note, the note of A. So everybody sits down and then you know, try to get your instrument tuned, and you know, it hurts your ears because with the violin you have 4 sides, I guess you call them, right? Strings in English, yeah. So first you tune the A string, and then you have to play 2 strings at the same time to make it be in harmony, and everybody's doing that. And I mean, it's really not a pleasant sound, let's say it like that. But then once everybody's in tune and you start playing and everybody's on the same page and in the same place of the page, now you have harmony, and it's a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what I do. That's what I did. And companies would pay me very little. I mean, I say very little, like $1 million or so. And then they would go and use that to interact with their people at all levels of the organization. The engineers could suddenly talk with the mathematicians, who could talk with the marketers, who could talk with the leadership, and the companies would accelerate enormously to the tune of sometimes multiple billions of dollars. And I was watching all that and wondering, what in the world, how are they getting to that from this, you know? But it's like you say, most companies are just tuning up.
Yeah. And they never quite find the harmony.
No. So I go into large firms, oil companies, automotive companies, manufacturing. Swiss banks, of all things, found me. Appliance makers. And I didn't work with any of their processes, or I didn't have to know their business very much at all. I know about people, and I know about harmony, and I know what happens when all the departments and all the parts and all of the suppliers and all of the buyers fall into harmony. It's a beautiful thing. It's beautiful music. And the best part, and you've mentioned this on several occasions, we get those letters, you know, thank you for what you did with our company. It's completely different. I talk to people that I would have never talked to before. We see things the same way. But when I took it home and I applied these communication transformers to my family, I love that. That's where the real appreciation came.
It's always been fascinating for me to see when a group of people comes together from very different backgrounds in maybe different departments, and how you can actually find a way to harmonize them. It's incredible to watch, and how at the end, you know, there's team spirit, and their eyes are brighter. I have never seen anybody do that in such a, let's say, detailed way.
We were working with a big construction firm. And they were flying to Ibiza every month for a weekend. And when it came to the part where they had to rehearse how to talk to the chief, how to talk to the workers, and see if they could find a more harmonious way to communicate. Because there was a lot of internal, well, you know, in a company, competition, intrigue, people working at cross purposes. But when it came time to theater, we used inner theater method. no one wanted to practice with the people that they worked with. They wanted to practice with their family members.
Mm-hmm.
Every single man who got up, about 30 different guys, everyone said, would it be all right if I did this with regard to my teenage son? We're out of communication. He's experimenting with things that I wish he were not. And then they would show up the next month, and the son is there with him,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so the harmony, let's say, wafted from the company into the families,
Mm-hmm.
and we see that all the time. You know. But I will say it works a lot better since you took over.
How so?
I keep telling you this, and I know you won't believe me, and you're German, and Germans are very humble, and you know.
Yeah, we are.
Secretly, I have been administering an IQ test to you over the years.
I don't know if I should be happy or scared.
Well, it's called the WACE, the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale. And so I've been taking, it's made up of about a dozen parts, and you administer them, and you get a score, and then you match the scores together. And I have a pretty good IQ, even though I never got good grades. But your IQ in the stratosphere.
So I guess I'm happy.
No, Germans are not that good at being happy, okay? I find you more skeptical.
No, I just mean happy that you did that test on me, because I wasn't sure if how to feel about it.
Well, I knew if I just brought it out and laid the pieces on the table that you would lock up. So I just feed you the questions and the tests and the tasks that are a part of that. And it turns out that your IQ is really quite off the charts. I know that's hard to hear.
It is, actually, yeah.
I know. It's the weirdest thing about I'm sorry, but German people,
Yeah.
they struggle with that, you know?
Yeah.
How can you say that? What can I see the numbers? But more important than that, you have another quality which some of my colleagues branch into, and that is an emotional intelligence. So Daniel Goleman, we all branch out. All the people in my field branch out from David McClelland, okay? And then so Spielberger came up with curiosity studies, my specialty. Daniel Goleman came up with emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Howard Gardner came up with 12 different elements of different aspects of IQ. And your emotional intelligence, I just want to say, I'm going to say this in a way that even a German person can hear.
Thank you, that's very generous.
You're not quite normal.
I knew it.
Something is off with you. You're not hysterical. You don't get upset.
Yeah,
You don't hold grudges with people.
Yeah.
You're unfailingly kind. You're incredibly empathic to the point where it almost could be seen as a weakness. Maybe you should not be so empathic.
Unfortunately, there really is nothing I can do about
I
it.
know, right? And people think it's a great benefit to be highly intelligent, but you know it comes with a price. You know, that sensitivity, that awareness, it's really good for your clients. It's really good for your teams. It's really good for your business. Not always easy on its practitioner. And then when we began collaborating, we met at a Curiosity. Me and Dr. Spielberger introduced curiosity studies into Europe in around 2002, and then we did a series of conferences on curiosity. Well, 10 years later, you start finding it in big corporations like Merck and places like that. Well, by then, they've learned it from, let's say to speak, our intellectual children and from their children's children, and they don't, they have no idea where it really came from. Well, I know where it came from. We brought it. And when you put your intellect and your musical sense of, you know, when people are in strife, you can hear it in their voices. They're strained. If you think of them as instruments, which I know you do, there's a harsh vibration in the way they relate to each other. They're tuning up.
Yeah.
And they rarely ever really get in tune, let alone on the same page, on the same measure, and in the same key. And so when you brought that in and put it with my curiosity about curiosity is very instinctive. It's ancient. You know, it's the if you look in the sky, you see the moon at night, and how do you know that's the moon? Because all around it is a contrast. There's space behind it, and so that's the figure and the background. And curiosity is the background. It's all of space. It's an infinite subject. And yet people want to turn it into the moon. They want to turn it into the object. They want to define it. They want to break it down into a certain thing. But it isn't a certain thing. It is literally a space, which is in the mind and also in the universe. It is a space within which moons and planets and stars and galaxies appear. It's a very, very deep subject. And you know, so as we put those two things together, let's say I brought the space, you brought the moon. And the impact of my work with companies completely expanded. Unbelievable to see, let's say, to walk in there with that kind of outside view, that sensitivity, and to give them a way to expand into it and to take in more of. It's like, okay, we had we had Galileo's telescope, then we had the Hubble telescope. We could see further into the universe. But when they put the James Webb telescope way out 1 million miles beyond the moon, all of a sudden they realized, hey, the Big Bang isn't really what it was all cracked up to be. Okay? There have been galaxies around a lot longer than 14 billion years. So suddenly the whole image of what the universe is, what the universe has been, what it is, how it's unfolding, all that changed. So when we go into a company, that's what happens to them. You know, their whole perspective shifts. You know, it's interesting right now watching different countries and try to keep up with. I love to watch the world of business. You know, watching Europe in the around 1900, the late 1800s, 1900, invent almost everything. Invent calculus, invent automobiles, invent psychology, Wilhelm Wundt, experimental psychology, invent, you know, almost anything you can think of. They were, you know, they were inventing it, up to the point of quantum physics. Max Planck, Einstein with relativity. Max Planck in 1900 trying to figure out Thomas Edison's light bulb, which wasn't Thomas Edison's light bulb at all. He stole it from a guy named Swan.
Yeah.
And the light wasn't behaving the way he thought it should, and he speculated about quanta. And bam, we're in the information age. Where all of a sudden we have transistors, and we have quantum calculation, we have quantum physics, and all of that came out of the birthplace of the innovation age, which is Europe. But then Europe itself got stuck in, the industrial age.
I know.
They're still making cars.
How did that happen?
How did that happen?
And what can we do about it?
Well, what can they do about it? Yeah, is the question. Because meantime, the U.S. picked up and moved into the information age and used that quanta. William Shockley and his guys created transistor, turned it into chips, and we were in the area of chips. And suddenly there are computers everywhere. They're getting smaller, they're getting faster, they're getting better. Now we have one in our pockets. What's the European equivalent of the iPhone?
There isn't one.
There isn't one.
Yeah.
They're still trying to build better mechanical manufactured devices, and it's not working out for them, you know. And all of that intelligence, there's a gap between what got invented, what got created in the cradle of innovation, and how it got applied. And it jumped over the sea, you know. And now we have Microsoft, Alphabet, Apple, all the A's, Amazon,
Meta.
yeah. And what's the car ride company called?
Uber.
Uber. Yeah, and in Germany they have one, but it's called Hinter. I'm sorry, that's my best German humor.
It's pretty bad, I have to tell you.
It's pretty bad. Let's just say this, they're a little behind everybody else in terms of application. Right?
Yeah.
And then last week, or this week, suddenly China comes out with a whole new era. They take AI and drop the price of it down where they invest $6 million and they come up with an astonishing AI package. The U.S. has spent 6,000 billion trying to develop AI, and suddenly the Chinese have leapfrogged over them with $6 million. Why didn't that come out of Berlin? The people are just as bright. They are just as creative. I would say more creative. But how did they miss that? And how are they still continuing to miss that and throw billions into software that's in the cloud somewhere doing nothing? You know? Yeah.
I mean, obviously one of the big challenges is bureaucracy. Everything takes a lot longer because of all the paperwork and regulations. Yeah.
I heard a German politician say he wanted to get the whole entire German tax system down to one form the size of a business card. So it's not that they don't know what they have to do. They do. They've got to simplify.
Yeah.
Somehow that will to do it is missing. So we're watching, and we have been able to help a few smaller German firms, but so far the big companies, they kind of want to keep going the way they're going and play follow the leader. If Elon Musk does it, we should do it. You know. But then the Chinese have they've really put Tesla out of, Tesla's done. You know, Chinese are building way better EVs, way cheaper, way safer, with solid-state batteries. They're working on hydrogen as the fuel and sodium as the battery. Well, that's the ocean. So it doesn't matter now if you have oil under the ground or not. The ocean is your fuel supply for the future, and also solar, which China also dominates. And what China did is they made the leap from chips to relationships. But it didn't come out of their government, which is hindering them in all governments are useless according to The Economist. The government is trying to hinder them in every way possible, but there's something in the groundwater of the people, something in the philosophy of the people. Now you know it personally, you've experienced it. You had a consultant from Taiwan, and let's say she opened some doors in a way that was a bit startling. What happened there?
Yeah, she had moved to Austin actually and lived there for a few years. And as I was doing business with her, I needed some assistance. One time I wanted to open a company in a certain state, and I don't have any team members there yet. And she said, oh, no problem at all. I'm going to call my family and it'll be handled. And I thought, oh, okay. Turned out she just called somebody in her family, and that person knew somebody else that knew somebody else, and it was really around a lot of corners.
A cousin of a cousin, right?
Right,
all within the family. Yeah.
And he took care of everything like this. She just called him up and asked him to assist, and it was done.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And then you wanted to go to Australia and open that up. And what happened? What was she able to do there?
Essentially, the same story happened there as well. And then I needed a book translated into Mandarin. And she made her father do it. She didn't want to do it. She was busy, and she said, oh, I'm just going to make my father do it. And I said, oh, that seems like a lot of trouble. Maybe we can find a freelancer. She said, no, he'll like it. Don't worry. I'll make him do it. Okay, I'm not going to stand in your way.
Now, she had a wonderful sense of humor, and so was a lovely person, but she wasn't a saint. She wasn't always kind to everybody. She was opinionated, and all the flaws that you find in people everywhere, the Chinese have them, same as all of us.
Yeah.
But there's something in that old Confucius philosophy about if things are right in the family, they'll be right in the village. If they're right in the village, they'll be right in the country. If they're right in the country, everything will be all right in the world. And so they have this family ties, or these family relationships that have enormous power. Now that's how like the day that Deep Seek came out, it cost the Chinese, the guys who did it, it wasn't even the project they were working on. They were working on something else, and then they got together and probably called a cousin or something and got some ideas and and popped out with that thing for $6 million.
Right.
Which countries worldwide had spent easily more than $6 trillion to get up to that point, and China leaped over them for literally the change in their pockets. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Amazing.
That's the power of relationship. Now, when we go into a company, we have to assist them to build a culture, not like the Chinese culture. It has to go back to the roots of their own culture. They have to, Germany has to go back to the tribal days that created the culture that allowed them to give birth to the innovation era. So in a sense, we help them move forward by taking them, like growing a tree by deepening the roots, something like that, you know. And then we don't fix anything or help anything or suggest anything. We don't know their business the way they do. But all of a sudden they reinvent their ancient culture for modern times. Now that's powerful. You know, and what they can do with that is beyond imagining. You know. So from ships, I think of Columbus.
To chips.
To chips, to relationships. And now where you're taking this, it's a German thing, leadership. Because if the leaders don't embrace this and learn it and then bring it into their cultures, it's not going to get in. You know, it's got to happen. I love the system that you've built because it includes every single person in a company. Let's say if Accenture picks up your technology, they have 700,000 consultants. How many secretaries, how many janitors, how many everything.
A lot of people.
And every single one of them has to embrace an innovative culture. And what I love about what you've done is that you've made that, with the power of infotainment, you've made it really easy for them and really fun for them. It's like they discover a video game and suddenly everybody wants to play Angry Birds.
Yeah.
And now they don't want to play Angry Birds anymore. Now they want to play Harmonious Orchestra. It's very powerful. It's very beautiful. I could not have done that. I don't have the empathy. True confession. I don't have the IQ that you do, but I do have the curiosity that drives that. And then this partnership becomes something I didn't know a business partnership like this could exist. It came as a complete shock to me. You know, all my life I've been an innovator, you know, doing things different than a creative kind of person. But when you find the right partner, I think of James Clerk Maxwell, who tamed electricity, brought electricity and electromagnetism together, and brought power to humanity. And somebody said, well, when are you going to have this equation finished that we can use it? And he said, well, when I get home, my wife is still working on it, and she'll let me know. Einstein said, it's a good thing to be married to a physicist who's able to do the math. So there have been these great relationships through time, but now you're turning it into more than that, also into leadership. Now you are not a leader. You don't like to order people around. You don't, you know, you're not aggressive. You're not Donald Trump. You're not, you're not going to get elected. You know.
Yeah, I'm certainly not like him. Yes, I would agree with that.
People are still voting for the guy with the charisma, with the exception of Angela Merkel, of course, who was an amazing leader and a woman. But what you do is bring the wisdom to the leaders that they can reinvent leadership. Now that era hasn't taken root yet, you know, but it's coming. It's on us, and it'll be here within a decade. You know, some of the people in the circles where I run say we used to count it in decades, then we counted it in years. Now we're counting it in months. And suddenly they're. You know, when you put AI together with HI, human intelligence, wow. So you used to get emails from people from all over the world, and then you would say, what does this mean? What's happening now just with emails? We'll take that one example.
Yeah, obviously with AI, everybody can get some assistance in wording their emails. So I work internationally with a lot of different people, different languages, and some their English is not that good. And they used to send me notes, and it would take me a while to understand what they're trying to say. And then now suddenly I'm getting emails from the same person, and they're eloquent and long and intricate, and I mean, they have style.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Before
amazing.
it was OMG, the LNLP and the QPRS got together and delivered the LMNOP and all these little code words, and you're trying to wonder, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're sending eloquent, intelligent, well thought through.
Right.
I mean, the combination of HI, human intelligence, with AI as a partner, it's raised the intellect of the entire planet massively, massively. And that's where leadership comes in. The new age, the new era, I should say, new age. No,
That's a whole different
that's
thing.
a whole different thing. I made a little graph there. What do you see there?
It looks a bit like a commercial for Audi.
That? Oh, yeah. Okay. They do make nice cars.
Yeah.
Try Audi. We go here from the industrial age to the information age, and you still have friends who work in the computer business, programmers.
So that's
and
what
so
the
on.
chips are. Yeah.
That's where the chips are. And then to the innovation age, and already the big companies are crushing innovation because it disrupts their cash flow. So it's already that cycle is ending, and the new cycle is an intelligence age. So the step that's coming really within months, if I can believe my scientist geek friends, is a world in which the very best of human intelligence is meeting through the platform of artificial intelligence, and comes something that's beyond innovation in the way that we think of it. You know, the question is who's gonna step into that new domain first? Which country? Which company? Which organization? China's done well. They still build stuff. You know, they don't build anything in America. Do you know that?
I did know that. Yeah.
They build all the car parts, they send them in, and they snap them together, but they don't build really anything. England doesn't build anything. Manufacturing has now gone to other places where it's cheaper and their labor's cheaper. And as far as the innovation age, it hasn't even started in some places. People have no idea that there's another way to live. You know. But the intelligence age, whoever gets there is not going to make a small jump. Use a computer for example, right? When I was in college, the computer was in a 3-story building with 2 stories below ground for the tubes. And you took your cards in, which you punched laboriously, put them in there, and you would come back the next day and get this faded little printout of the information, which you could have done more efficiently by hand. Now that thing is in your pocket, and it's everywhere in the world, and it's connecting everybody in the world. Thank you, Mr. Jobs. Yeah. 2007, 2008, as the banks were crashing, the iPhone was being born, and we were fully into the innovation age. It's already done. You have an iPhone? You have a new iPhone?
I do have an iPhone.
Is
yes.
it better than the one before that?
Well,
Not really, because that would disrupt their cash flow. See, so they have a good reason to not let things go too fast. But then there comes, if you look at the computers that are coming out along with AI, they're quantum computers. They're not 100 times faster than a supercomputer. They're not 1,000 times faster. They're not a million times faster. They are billions of times faster. It's hard to imagine, isn't it? A computer that can calculate billions of times faster than anything that we see today. Well, that's the birth of the intelligence age. Imagine a company that can respond to its customers, work with its suppliers in a, let's say, a quantum mindset, a quantum field of information and energy. Whichever company makes that leap, everything else goes extinct, and then whoever is left standing has to make the leap too in order to stay up in that world. Now it sounds fantastic, like I'm a futurist or something. I'm not. That's just what's happening, My grandfather had a mule, which he plowed the fields back before World War II, and then he got a tractor. Wow, everything changed. And then he got equipment, and everything changed. And then one day, in his old age, he flew to Hawaii on a wide-body jet. He was astounded that him and my grandmother could fly to Hawaii and have that experience in his old age. The pace of the change is accelerating at such a rate that the human mind can't even wrap itself around it. So what's next? Well, we don't know, but we facilitate that in companies. And I'm very curious to see who's ready to make the leap.